Hey YouTube, I'm Mars1952 and I'm getting ready to flush the transmission on my 2004 Volvo XC70. I've done this twice on other cars. On this car I did it before at 60,000 miles. The car now has 105,000 miles on it, so I'm going to do it again. First thing you have to do is take the shroud off underneath the engine. This shroud is held on by 7 bolts, and they use a 12mm nut to get them off, or 12mm socket. I got the air wrench all set up here. So I'll take the ones on the outside off first, and this one is not quite in the middle, but it's close enough that it'll hold the shroud up, keep it from flopping around. I take that one out last. On down to the last one. And we'll just put the shroud back out of the way here. I guess I forgot to mention that I jacked up the car and put it on safety stands. Now the next thing we have to do is take the transmission drain plug out. And that is right here. I don't know if I can get... Maybe I can move the camera a little bit. Alright, well I moved the camera around so you can see the drain plug right here on the transmission. Got a drain pan under here, paper towels at the ready, and unfortunately I don't know what the metric size of this plug is, but 15/16 fits on there very nicely. So I'm going to take it loose at 15/16. I'll hold the drain pan up until I get it started. Try not to drop the drain pan into the plug into the drain pan. Now you can see the transmission fluid's a little dirty. It's been in there 45,000 miles. So just gotta let that drain. And remember to put the plug back in, that's important. Okay, it's almost drained. Now I forgot to point out that this drain plug here has a magnet built into it, and that's going to get a little bit of crud on it. I've already cleaned the crud off. There wasn't very much on there, just a little bit of fine metal particles from the clutch discs and so forth. So that's cleaned off. Now I'll put her back on. And put that on snug, but you don't want to over tighten it. Alright, let's put the shroud back on. Okay, the shroud goes on just like it came off. Get it up there sort of roughly in the right position. And put that center bolt in first. And once you get all the bolts in, snug them down. Alright, I think I forgot to mention before, I'll show you where the 7 bolts are. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this is the last one over here that has to be tightened. Just snug them down. They don't have to be very tight. But if you don't get them just the right amount of tightness, they'll fall out. So I guess they do have to be right. I should mention that when you drain out the transmission, you're going to get 3.1 liters, or about 3.3 quarts. So we'll have to replace that right away. For some reason, Volvo hid the dipstick to the transmission, if you can call it that, and the fill point way the hell down in there. I have to get a different camera to even show you where it is. Here's the front of the car on the driver's side. You can see the air cleaner. You come down through here, and there it is, that yellow cap down there. That's the combination cap to the transmission and dipstick and fill point. Now to get that little plug out, there is a there's like a spring that holds the yellow plug in place, and I can't get both hands down in there. So I take a long screwdriver, hold the spring back, and squirm my arms down in there, pull the plug out, the dipstick. So that's the dipstick. Now it'll go back in. It'll go back in just by pushing it. This spring has a little, like a taper on it, so it'll just push right in. But getting it out is a real pain. Alright, so now we've got to replace the 3.3 quarts that we already drained out, or that I already drained out, and have a nice long skinny funnel. So you've got to just warm this down through the funnel. You just have to push the hoses out of the way a little bit until it's into the neck, the filler neck. This doesn't fit perfectly, but it'll work. Well, I drained out 3.3 quarts, but I'm only going to put in 3 quarts right now. Make sure the thing is where it's supposed to be. Hold it down. Now, notice I'm using Mobil 1 synthetic. If you go to the Mobil 1 website, the proper Volvo specs for this car are listed as replacements. Our Mobil 1s are listed as a replacement for it. The Mobil 1, of course, is synthetic. This is the very same fluid that I used the last time. Matter of fact, these quarts that you're looking at were left over from what I purchased the last time. I bought some new, though, to make up the difference. I have a partial bottle here that's got about 5 ounces in it. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. 3.3 quarts would be, about 3 quarts 10 ounces. But anyway, so that should get us close enough. Now I'm not sure. I'm going to take the funnel out, catch the drips. I'm not sure if you have to put the dipstick back in each time, but just to be safe, that's what I'm going to do. And it is hard to get in. Alright, it's in. Okay, right here on the driver's side at the top of the radiator is the low pressure return line for the transmission fluid. That's got to come out so we can flush the transmission. Now, I just tried to take it out and it seemed to be pretty difficult. Now, I don't remember it being hard last time. So I'm going to put a little leverage on it here. There it comes out. Alright, it came out. It didn't take too much leverage to get it out. And I can see, I probably should do another close-up for you. Okay, so here is the low pressure line popped out. You can see it's got a couple O-rings on there. I'm going to replace those. Those are expensive. They cost about $8 a piece at Volvo. The green clip is reusable. I bought a spare just in case, so I didn't have to wait. That's not very expensive. The O-rings are $7.68 each, and the green clip was $7.50. So it's close to 30 bucks just for these 3 parts. So anyway, if you're going to flush the transmission, you just take a piece of clear plastic tubing, where is it? About 9/16 of an inch. This is only 3/8 ID. You want 9/16 OD. You wrap enough Teflon tape around it so you can shove it in this hole where this gizmo came out, and then you just pump it into your waste container, and I'll show you that in a minute. But I have an inline filter on mine. I'm going to replace that. I'll show you how I did that. Alright, I'm going to take the inline filter out. It's hooked in this line. So I'm going to reach down in here and do the spring clamps, or not the screw clamps. Of course, I can't see them. Alright, I've loosened the clamp. Now I'm going to take the filter out, and it's going to leak oil out the bottom, so I've got a paper towel ready here. Oops, there it goes. Alright, so there's the inline filter. See if you can see it. Now this is the part that hooks into the radiator. Now you can see this is a factory hose. I just split this and took out about that much. You'll have to measure whatever filter you put in. This is a CarQuest It's 85-953. 85-953. And it's a magnetic inline filter, 3/8. It has 3/8 nipples on it. So anyway, I'm going to put that back in. Well, before I put the inline filter back in, I'm going to hook up my vinyl tubing by just shoving it in the factory hose here. I'm going to lightly clamp. It doesn't need to be clamped, but I just like to be extra safe here. I'm going to lightly clamp it down. Then this will plug, make sure it's clean. This will plug right back into the same hole, except now instead of being down, it's going to be up. Okay, that's clipped in place now. Now this will pump transmission fluid out into my 2-liter bottle over here. And I need to secure that to make sure it doesn't fall off. Now this tubing is just a piece of 3/8 tubing I had laying around. Any 3/8 tubing will fit in there, or something that's pretty close. This is, like I said, it's low pressure. So normally, if you're lucky enough to have somebody to help you, you don't need to worry about a contraption to hold the jug. But I'm doing this by myself, so I've got to secure the jug so it doesn't tip over, and I've got to secure the line so it doesn't fall out. I took a 2-liter soda bottle and I filled it up with 2 quarts of water and then made a mark right at the water line. So now what I'm going to do is start the engine and pump 2 quarts of fluid, transmission fluid, out until it gets to this line, turn it off, and I'll add fluid to the transmission. You can see I started to get a little air there toward the end. Alright, I'm going to dump that and put in 2 fresh quarts. So I've just added 2 quarts and I drained the waste, and we just have to repeat this cycle where you drain and add until it comes out clean. Let's see how many it takes. Well, this is the second 2 quarts. It's starting to get cleaner. So that means I've added 3.5 plus 4. So that should be the complete capacity of the transmission, but we're going to have to add some more to get it clean. Okay, here's the third batch. That makes 6 quarts pumped out. Okay, this is 8 quarts. There's 7 and 8. Alright, this is 10 quarts. It's looking pretty clean. So that means I've added 13 quarts so far. I drained out 3.3, added 3, then I've added 10. So that's actually more like 13.5 quarts. The capacity of the transmission is 7.82 quarts. That means I've flushed out 5 perfectly good quarts through here. That actually looks pretty good. So I'm going to call it quits, and that's going to be good enough. I think the last time I did this, it was pretty dirty, and I did 17 quarts. But I hadn't been, in the first 60,000 miles, it was running on the same factory fluid without an inline filter. So when you do this, when you're pumping out the fluid, put your foot firmly on the brake and run it through the gears. That way you're going to run fluid through all the different passages in the transmission. Alright, let's hook it back up. So now, we'll take this elbow out. Oops, I forgot to catch the fluids. And we'll have to put on new O-rings on here. Okay, the O-ring part number is 9888405. And the clip part number, snap lock they call it, 9485149-0. So I'm going to put the new one on, keep the old one for a spare. So the next time I do this, I'll just have the old one as a backup in case I break this one. How does it come off? Can you see that? See me trying to cut myself here with my knife. Screwdriver would probably be a better tool. I guess they figure if this wants to come off, it's going to be broken. It doesn't want to come off, does it? There it is. So I got it off without breaking it. Put the new one on. Snaps on. New O-rings. Alright, we got O-rings. Got to get a dab of oil to put on there. Not yet though. First thing we're going to do is put this on the inline filter. So, flow down. You see that? Alright, hose clamp is in the way. Put your hose clamp on there. Make sure the hose clamp is behind the flare. And we'll slide this down in. This is the hard part, and I can't put this on camera. Got to go down in between all these hoses and stuff. Find the place where I cut the line and slide it on there. And make sure that you put your hose clamp on first on the hose. I remember this was the most difficult thing of it. See how hard this is going to be. He's doing it by feel because I can't see it. Come on. And it's all slippery. I think I got it started. Ouch. Okay, that's all the way down. Now before I fasten that clamp, I'm going to twist this into the right place and put it in position. Well, I'm at least going to twist it to the right angle. That way when I put the clamp on, I'll be able to get it off in the future. Okay, reach back in there and get a hold of the hose clamp. Of course it fell down. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, hose clamp is in position. Got the screwdriver and the nut driver on there. Darn it. Okay, got a hold of it. I'll tighten it down. This is a real exciting part here. Maybe I can just fast forward and say that this took me about 15 minutes. Okay, hose clamp is snug. Oh, my back is dead. So now we've got to clean this off. And take a little bit of, there should be a few drops of trans fluid left in that empty thing. And we're going to lubricate the O-rings. And snap it back in the appropriate hole. You see that? Probably not. It snapped right in. Might have hurt it. Alright, so now I got to clean up my junk and start the engine, check the transmission fluid level. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's full to the cold mark right here. It's pretty hard to see when the transmission fluid's clean. I'm going to take it out and drive it until it's warmed up, and then check it again, make sure it comes up to the hot mark, because I don't know, it might be a little bit warm here. You might still need a little bit of fluid. It's hard to tell. I took it out for a test drive, and I guess I didn't check the fluid right away. See about the engine, as you can see. So we'll probably give it a chance to cool down. It probably needs a little bit more. That's good for now. That's about it for the transmission flush. I've done this on 3 other cars, and it usually gives you a noticeable improvement in transmission function, and sometimes it'll give you a noticeable improvement in fuel mileage too. On my daughter's car, I think it had about 90,000 miles on it when I flushed it the first time. We'd had that since new. The fuel mileage had dropped off, the transmission was sluggish, shifting was really bad. And I flushed it out. On that one I had to do quite a few quarts. I don't remember how many. It came out, it was practically black when it first came out. I wasn't doing videos at that time. But anyway, after I flushed it out, put an inline filter on it, it shifted like a new car again, and the gas mileage went up 2 miles per gallon. So, have fun. Make sure you like and comment, share this. It'll help me out a lot.